For decades, he was really the ultimate political survivor, a guy whose ambition to become chief minister was just as famous as his iron grip on administration. But, a sudden tragedy has just left his entire legacy and, frankly, the future of Maharashtra hanging in the balance. So today, let's unpack the legacy of the man right at the center of this storm, Ajit Pawar. I mean, the news was just a total shock. It all happened in his home turf of Baramati, the very place that defined his entire political career. A chartered aircraft crashed. And just like that, the incident instantly ended the journey of a man who had been an absolute fixture in state politics for more than 30 years. So, to really understand the sheer impact of this loss, we've got to look at the man himself, right? The administrator, the politician, the family man, and yeah, all the controversies that seem to follow him everywhere. So, let's unpack the legacy of Ajit Pawar together and really explore the massive void he's left behind.
Okay, so first things first, let's just look at the immediate aftermath. Because his death, it wasn't just a personal tragedy. No way. It was a political earthquake.
I mean, you have to remember, for a state that runs on some seriously complex coalition math and these powerful regional networks, losing a figure like Ajit Pawar is just immense. He was the sitting deputy chief minister when he died, a post he'd held a record 6 times. His absence, well, it immediately reshapes the entire balance of power. So it really makes you wonder, right? Where did all this influence actually come from? Well, to understand Ajit Pawar, you have to understand his fortress, Baramati. The Baramati model, this thing is basically the foundation of the entire Pawar dynasty's power. It's this massive, integrated development plan that took a region that was once constantly struggling with drought and turned it into a thriving economic powerhouse. And look, this wasn't just politics as usual. This was a decades-long project of, well, socioeconomic engineering. And the model itself is pretty impressive when you break it down. I mean, it started with the basics, right? Things like water conservation. But from there, it just grew and grew. It came to include this powerful cooperative network for sugar and milk, then cutting-edge tech like using AI to make farming more efficient, and even dedicated industrial zones that pulled in major foreign companies. And the results? Well, they were absolutely staggering. This whole ecosystem of cooperatives, farms, and industries in Baramati, it generates a turnover of over 10,000 crore rupees. That kind of economic muscle, well, it translates directly into serious political power. All right, so let's shift gears and talk about the man at the center of it all. He was known affectionately as Dada, which means elder brother, and Ajit Pawar really cultivated a very distinct political identity. His political journey started way back in 1991, and from there, it was just a steady climb. He made a quick jump from national to state politics, basically making that Baramati assembly seat his own for more than 30 years. He's held pretty much every major portfolio you can think of, but his career was also defined by these sharp, pragmatic, you could even say shocking turns, like, the infamous 80-hour government in 2019, and then, of course, the big split from his uncle's party in 2023. And this really captures the two sides of his personality, doesn't it? On one hand, you've got the total workaholic administrator, famous for starting his day at 6 a.m. and making these decisive, on-the-spot calls. But on the other hand, you have the ultimate politician, a guy who played a brand of politics where there were no permanent friends or enemies. That's what let him survive so many political storms, even if it meant his biggest ambition, becoming chief minister, always remained just out of reach. And listen to this. These were his own words from his final budget speech. It's a motto that really just sums up his entire vision. He always positioned himself as a leader laser-focused on development, a go-getter who was all about action over just empty talk. But, that same drive for action and his, let's call it a blunt style, often landed him in some serious hot water. His career was never, ever far from controversy. And this quote, well, it's probably the most infamous thing he ever said. Just a completely raw, unfiltered remark that stunned the entire state and perfectly captured that outspoken and, yeah, sometimes reckless public persona he had. Now, the context here is absolutely crucial. He actually said this while mocking a farmer who was on a 55-day hunger strike, all because he was demanding water. The backlash was, you can imagine, immediate and incredibly severe. It forced him to make a public apology, and it was a moment that really revealed that sharp, controversial side of his personality. And then, well,
there were the more serious allegations. For years, he was tied to an alleged irrigation scam valued at a mind-boggling 70,000 crore rupees. Now, he always denied any wrongdoing and was eventually cleared of the charges, but that controversy, it cast a long shadow over a huge part of his career.
And of course, who could forget this whole saga? Back in 2019, he just shocked everyone by joining forces with the BJP in this dramatic early morning swearing-in ceremony. But the gamble completely backfired. He just couldn't get enough MLAs on his side, and the whole government collapsed in just over 3 days. It was a stunning political miscalculation. So all of that brings us right back to the present day, because his passing leaves the Nationalist Congress Party, the very party he famously split, at a huge critical crossroads. And his absence is such a massive blow because, look, he had just proven his political muscle. Right after splitting the party, his faction absolutely dominated the 2024 assembly elections. They won 41 seats compared to his uncle's 10. See, he wasn't just a leader. He was the political center of gravity. And that leaves one massive question. Who on earth can possibly fill his shoes? And this is really where the crisis becomes crystal clear. There is no obvious heir apparent. His wife, Sunitra, she's only just recently entered politics. His sons, Parth and Jay, they're not really active in party affairs at all. And then the other big names in the Pawar family, like Supriya Sule and Rohit Pawar, well, they're key leaders in the rival faction. What you're left with is a complete and total leadership vacuum. And so this leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? Ajit Pawar's death has created this huge void that his family, his party, and the entire state of Maharashtra now has to figure out. So will this tragedy lead to the slow fading of a political dynasty? Or could it actually be the one thing that forces an unlikely family reunion? Really, the whole future of Maharashtra's politics might just hang on that answer.